Welcome to FUNC YOU UP, the podcast that gives you the best of functional medicine, nutrition, and wellness in 8 minutes or less.
Welcome back to FUNC YOU UP. This is Michelle Miller, clinical nutritionist.
And Samantha Wineke, functional medicine health coach.
Today we are talking about sugar, the deadly, addictive food that is in just about everybody's kitchen.
Yeah, we're going to surprise you today and tell you about some hidden sources. But before we get to that, let's talk about sugar and why is it bad for you?
Yeah, sugar's the new fat. It's, you see low sugar, you see sugar-free. Marketing companies are jumping all over this, and for good reason.
Yeah, if you remember, fat used to be the thing that we were all going after, right? Low fat this, low fat that, because we thought that fat was what made us fat. But, we've really realized that it's more sugar that's doing that to us.
It is. We realize that sugar is what is creating inflammation in the body. It's what's triggering our triglyceride levels to be off. Pre-diabetes is becoming a massive issue, which then leads into full-blown diabetes. Sugar is what is increasing insulin in the body, which is disrupting hormone regulation. It's making it more difficult to lose weight, and it's really affecting cravings, which I find extremely frustrating.
Yeah, and what it's doing is it's really triggering your dopamine receptors, right? So it's actually pretty addictive. And so a lot of times I feel like it's not even a lot of times people's fault, right? Because you end up wanting more and more of it. And if you're not even aware you're eating it, then...
Absolutely. I mean, sugar is lighting up dopamine receptors that some street drugs will light up. So, this is a very addictive chemical, and it's found in foods all over the place we may be very unaware of.
Right. So let's talk about some places it might be hidden so everyone can kind of be on the lookout for it.
Yes. And I think to just give a thorough understanding of what we're talking about here, we understand that there are naturally occurring sugars, things like fructose, which is going to be found in fruit. There's going to be some sugars in things like rice or bread. We're talking about a lot of the added sugars that, we will cover some foods that are just higher in natural sugars, but also these added sugars that are being hidden. We understand that your body is going to react one way if you consume an apple and another way if you consume a cookie. And that's not only because of the grams of sugar, but the type of sugar that's in it as well.
Right. So as we were talking about earlier, companies have caught on to the fact that sugar is addictive, right? So it's in a lot of these places that you wouldn't expect. So some that I find pretty shocking and surprising are things like different sauces. Like you'll see in marinara, it's really hard to find a marinara sauce that doesn't have added sugar. There's a lot of sugar in dressings, salad dressings, yogurts, breads. What am I missing, Michelle?
Yeah, I think the whole condiments as a whole, we'll get into the specific types of sugars in a minute, but ketchup, barbecue, canned fruit, I think a lot of people feel like they're doing better by having fruit, but if it's in a can, you're getting an added syrup to that. So that could be tricky.
Granola bars and granolas in general.
Yeah, added sugar to that. And then you get into another category of beverages with anything from iced tea beverages, sports drinks. There's a Starbucks on every corner. We see people walking out first thing in the morning with their Frappuccinos. It's basically an adult milkshake.
It really is. I think it's something crazy like 2 cans of Coca-Cola or something is the same as a Frappuccino.
Yeah. That's an addiction. I'll tell you what, that's more than just about the caffeine there. That is, you're doing that in the morning to wake you up every day. That is a huge shock to your insulin levels. And it's going to set your metabolism up in a certain way to really crave sugar and have imbalanced energy for the rest of the day.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's like anything else. You kind of build a tolerance to it, right? So the more sugar you have, the more sugar you'll need to kind of continue to get that rush, that energy, that dopamine. But then also once you kind of cut it out from your diet, you become more sensitive to sugar. So something naturally sweet like just a piece of fruit or even sometimes vegetables can taste kind of sweet once you've kind of weaned off of all of that added sugar. That doesn't really happen naturally in nature.
Yeah, that's really important to know is that even our sugar taste receptors on the tongue, they can be desensitized over time when you're having tons and tons of sugar in the diet. But the good news is they can also be resensitized. desensitized. So if we're taking a client through a really strict, week-long or 10-day challenge where they're having tons of vegetables, they're really cutting their sugars down, they will end that and say, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I had, my old favorite, coffee beverage. I couldn't believe how sweet it was. I didn't even enjoy it. It was almost too sweet.
Absolutely. I'm in the middle of cutting out sugar a little bit right now too. And tomatoes are sweet to me, which is wonderful.
Absolutely. Right? I mean, that's right. You think about fruit as our nature's dessert. That's how our original desserts were really in the form of. So when it comes to sugars, some of the main names that you may recognize would be things like glucose, fructose, or sucrose. So these are going to be a lot of the sugars that are ending in the OSE. And these are typically the most obvious to find, but we're really concerned about all of these other added sugars that are going to be on your labels that you need to be on the lookout for. So now that you know the types of foods these are in, Samantha, take us through some of these forms of sugar we need to be checking the ingredient list of.
Yeah, so exactly what you were saying. There are so many different ways that it can be labeled, right? So a dead giveaway is obviously if it has the word sugar in it, right? Cane sugar, brown sugar, coconut sugar. But then you also have to keep your eyes peeled for something that says syrups in it. That's also a dead giveaway. And then there are things like maltodextrin. That's a big one you have to keep your eye out for. Fruit juice concentrates, date juice. So there are if you Google it, you can actually just find this long list of, I think there's like 100 different names for sugar.
That's crazy.
It's insane. And how are we supposed to know?
Yeah, that's really frustrating. I remember when I figured out that barley malt, because I was like training myself to be aware of forms of sugar or forms of gluten. And then I realized that was a form of sugar. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Right. How would you have known?
Yeah, it's frustrating, but the more you know, right?
And also, like, the less you're having packaged foods, the less you have to even worry about this. A lot of this is just looking at labels because you're eating things out of boxes and bags. And, the more you transition to a plant-based, more plant nutrient-dense diet, you don't have to worry about this so much.
And I think the last point we just want to touch on is being weary of the sugar-free options, and that you don't necessarily want to be using artificially flavored sugar because those are just chemicals that are bad for your body as well. We'll probably get into that topic deeper on a later episode, but we're not necessarily, things will naturally have some level of sugar. We're not looking to use these artificial sugars. We're just allowing ourselves to be more educated so that we can be on the lookout for the better versions of the condiments, the salad dressings, those things we're using on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Well put. All right. That's a wrap for today. Thank you all for coming by. You can email any questions you have for us at funkyouup@physiologicnyc.com. So that's FUNCYOUUP @physiologicnyc.com. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
You've been listening to Funk You Up. Be sure to like, review, and subscribe for more daily tips on living well.